All right. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah amma ba'd. So we're going to open up to the floor Q&A. Anybody have any questions about studying overseas? And so yes.
Yeah, this question pertaining to you had mentioned on the reality study overseas, like when people was coming home for the summer, their wives didn't want to go back, so they dropped out of the school. I just wanted to know, like, what effect did that have on you?
I didn't say that.
No, I was on the reality of studying overseas, not today.
Oh, I'm about to say, I don't remember saying that.
Yeah, you ain't say that. Just saying, like, what effect did that have when you heard like they dropped out?
So when I would hear that brothers would drop out, to be honest, I would get scared because I wanted to stay in Mecca and finish my studies there. And when I left, or my family at the time, when I left Mecca, it was hard because I remember the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, who said there's two places that the Dajjal won't enter, Mecca and Medina. And in the explanation of that, it said that Mecca and Medina will purge itself from people that don't belong there. So when I graduated and I was headed back to America, I was afraid that maybe Allah purged me from Mecca because I wasn't good enough to be there. So that was something that I feared in my heart, like maybe I may not get the opportunity to go back. So when I would hear stories about other students, they would go and then, they go back to America and their families refuse to go back. Because there was a couple brothers that studied with us. They went back for the summertime and their wife was like, no, I'm not going back to live like that. And they stayed in America. Now I know a couple brothers like that studied with us. And when their wives came back to America, they refused to go back with them. So that essentially ended their studying abroad. That ended their studying abroad. So it was hard. That's something that we would think about and hope that wouldn't be our case. Yeah. Jazakallah khair. That's it.
I have a question.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So this more so before you got to the university, you said you was like raised Christian. How did your parents react to you when you told them that you took Shahada?
So he asked, you got to get close to the mic. So the brother, he asked, how did my parents react when I first took my shot? So I remember my dad said I was going through a phase. Oh, that's just a phase. My mom and dad thought it was a phase, but the phase never ended, alhamdulillah. So initially, they were upset, but then as the years went on, they came to accept it, like this is who he is. And essentially I became like the black sheep of the family because at the time I was the only one that takes Shahada.
I have a question.
Is the mic working over there? Is it plugged in? The sister's got a question.
Mic check.
Is that mic working?
Can y'all hear me?
No. Hey, Saad, fix the mic for the sister side. Yes, go ahead, Sheikh.
Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. So a question for people that don't have the ability to go overseas and study here in America, what's a program that a person can kind of follow to benefit? Aside from Quran and Arabic, what are some books or some methods of studying that a person can do to kind of benefit?
So I would say, as many of the Salaf, the scholars of the past would say, they say whoever makes their book their sheikh, they're going to have more mistakes than correct. Meaning, if you don't have the ability to study with a sheikh, even if you read Arabic and go through books on your own, they say that you're going to make more mistakes than you're going to have correct. So having said that, you need a sheikh. You need to study with somebody that's going to help you understand the deen. That's number one. If you don't have that, from my understanding, there's a school in Minnesota I think there's an Islamic university in Minnesota. One of the brothers that studied with us, he sent his son there right now, currently studying. His son finished the Quran in Mecca. His son's fluent in Arabic, and he wants to go overseas studying, but he said he's waiting for the door to open up. In the meantime, he sent his son to Minnesota. I don't know about the program there, but according to him, he said that it's one of the better programs around in America to go benefit from, and Allah knows best.
Being as though we have more students of knowledge here in Philadelphia now, opposed to when you was learning, do you recommend that you learn as much as you can in your town first before you go overseas?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Learn as much as you can from the students of knowledge that you have access to. Get whatever you can get from them. Because if your plan is to go overseas and study, and you have students in your town, I'm talking about real students, I'm not talking about translators, I'm talking about Taleb. If you have real students of knowledge that study with ulama, like finish books with ulama, benefit from them. And the reason why I'm emphasizing that is because we have people that people think are students and they're really not. They're translators. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's one thing for a person to read a book to you that you could read yourself in English. And there's another thing, a brother that study or sister that studied Deen. You got, you may have sisters that studied Islam, but they can't. They only can teach Arabic or something, because nobody. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying in general. If you study Deen, try to seek out those people that study Deen with scholars, benefited from scholars. You might have a brother, and what I mean by benefited from scholars is no disrespect to nobody, but everybody got to know their place. Everybody got to know their lane. Just because you made Umrah every year and you met a sheikh every year, maybe if you finished the book, maybe it took you 10 years to make an Umrah and you went through a particular science. Alhamdulillah, teach that. You know what I'm saying? Learn from that. But don't be ashamed or offended or shy to ask a brother, where did you study and what did you study? There's no harm in that, right? You should know. If you're going to sit in a person's class, what did you study? What qualifies you to talk to me about Islam? With all due respect. If you just studied Arabic, alhamdulillah, just say you study Arabic and you're going to translate a book and read it to them. That's cool. But understand that that's where it stops. Meaning, don't put yourself on a level that you didn't earn. It's disrespectful. I'll give you an example. Real rap. I'm about to be totally honest with everybody here. In spite of how anybody feels about Sheikh Tahir Wyatt, in spite of how anybody in this city feels about him, this man spent 21 years studying Deen. And when I would see him overseas, he was one of the most serious students I met. Studied Deen. Did not play around. Sheikh Abdul Razak al-Badr, that everyone teaches his classes and translate his books, he called him a sheikh. Sheikh Wasil al-Abbas, who's one of the scholars that teaches in the Haram in Mecca, calls him Sheikh Tahir. How disrespectful then is it that we come to this city and brothers that not even known to study, but they got Sheikh next to their name, and y'all not even on the same level. But to the average person, you can't make the distinction because everybody speak Arabic. That's disrespectful. That's disrespectful to the men that put the work in. We study more than half of these brothers. You don't see Sheikh next to our name. I mean, and granted, some of the ulama, they may say, well, to y'all people, y'all are the Mashaykh. And I heard that too. But I'm saying, what's the distinction? You're not on the same level with Sheikh Tahir, so what's the difference now? If I read Sheikh such and such is teaching a class, Sheikh Tahir is teaching a class. To the average person, they're the same. No, they're not the same. This is 21 years of benefit in Islam, and this is a couple years studying Arabic and maybe read a couple books. It's not the same. But and this is why in our town we're hurting, because we don't know what knowledge is versus what's not. You can't make a distinction between a translator and a person that's a real student of knowledge. This is a problem. And I think that the people that are in the position to teach, you have to be humble enough to say, listen, I only reached this level. I'm really not what y'all give me. I'm not. It's people more knowledge. Listen to this. Real talk. Whoever has a sheikh next to their name, is there somebody here more knowledgeable than you? Ask them that. Is there somebody in this city more knowledgeable than you? If they say no, it's a problem. You know what I'm saying? You got brothers like Sheikh Tahir Wyatt. He taught in the Prophet's man. I don't care how you feel about him. You might not even like him. So what? You still can't take away from his credentials. The man's a PhD. Degrees don't mean that. It means something to the early man. They got him. Huh? This man taught in the Prophet. How many of us taught in the Prophet's masjid? How many of us are qualified to even get a chair there? You're not qualified. This man, before he got his seat in the Haram, we were still in Saudi Arabia. They put him through a lot to get to that point. Test him, make sure he knows what he's talking about, et cetera, et cetera. How many of these people with sheikhs next to their name was put through any test? Huh? So, you know, people feel how they feel, but truth is the truth. If I don't say it, who gonna say it? This stuff gotta be known. We can't, because the reality of it is, this is our community. So if we not gonna tell the truth, who will? Half of the brothers in our community can't even go to other communities and teach because they know they don't have no credentials. They want people that know what they're talking about. Make sense? You can't go to another community. You can't go to Masjid Medina, for example, and teach, because they're off. Nah, it's because they know you didn't study. They know that you don't have no Islamic pedigree. You know what I'm saying? So that's it. You know, whoever, and this is, I'm not saying this to boost myself up because I'm not on the level of Sheikh Tahir. I don't consider myself to be on this level. But I also know this one, that one, that one, that one, and that one, they're not on this level either. I know that for a fact. I had conversations. So what I'm saying is we have to be honest enough to be able to tell the truth. I didn't mean to go on that long tangent, you know what I'm saying? But I wanted to clarify that so that people understand what it is and what it isn't. Type. Any other questions?
Yes,
Yes, Fadl.
I have a couple.
Okay.
So the first one is, it's kind of what you kind of explained just now, but you said that you were on the bottom. One of the students said you feel like you're from the bottom.
Is the mic on?
It is.
All right, talk in the mic then.
Okay. Who would you consider the top that's in Philly, other than Sheikh Tahir?
The top students in Philly?
Yes.
Probably from Philly, probably Mufti. Tahir Mufti. And then after that, it might be a toss-up depending on, you know what I mean, who you talking about.
Okay. You mentioned fitna, the fitna that was going on that y'all heard it over there. What fitna were you referencing?
The fitna that when we were in school that we heard about was basically, people not being clear Salafi, they're not really Salafi. You know, the same stuff that's going on now. The same stuff that, you only could pray here and you got to only, at that time it was you only could sit with one scholar and the group of scholars that are with him, and if you don't agree with that, then your religion is questionable. That's the stuff I'm talking about.
And how did y'all handle that while y'all were over there?
So we handle that by sitting with other scholars and learning. The only real way to handle that is learning Deen, learning Islam. Once you learn Islam, it gives you the answers to all that. Meaning, there's no one scholar that reigns supreme over the rest of the Muslims. That doesn't exist. It's a lie. Islam is not confined in the one sheikh and one sheikh's understanding of Islam. It doesn't work like that. Everything goes back to the Quran and the Sunnah and the understanding of the pious predecessors. That's Islam. Understanding those things may differ depending on the scholar that you're talking to. Some have differences of opinion on issues, and those differences may be valid differences. And so studying Islam, it allows you to see all the different sides. And this is indicative, or this is a clear indicator that people in our community haven't studied because you would not be beefing over the things we beef about. I'll give you an example. 20 years ago, the beef was if you come back from Sami Allahu liman hamida, and if you put your hands on your chest or on the side, you was an innovator, right? Then we got out of that phase. Then the next one was foot to foot, shoulder to shoulder. Then the next one was clear Salafi, non-clear Salafi. The next one, it was always something. The next one was you got to come. All of these are new things that come about that separate the community. The next one was we're testing students on what do you say about this student and that student. Just that part. When I first came back to America, it wasn't nothing I did. It was because I didn't say nothing about Shadeed Muhammad or Tahir White. Right? Because I didn't refute them, so I became off of it. Guilty by association. Okay? Now, the thing is this. What bid'ah that's mujma alayh that they yukhalif? Right? What is the bid'ah? Whoever says Shadeed, all right, Sheikh Ubaid, Allah yarhamu, he said something about Shadeed. Who gave Sheikh Ubaid the information? And even if he said that, Allah yarhamu, it's other mashayikh that disagree with it. Let me tell you how unfair and how crazy this looks. Right? I'm gonna give you an example. I need you guys to pay attention. Sheikh Ubaid says something about Shadeed Dal Mudil. That was the words that was carried out. I don't agree with that. But not just me. Who am I? Right? Ulama don't agree with that. That he's misguided, misguides people. Other scholars disagree with that. From them, Sheikh Wasil al-Abbas and others. Right? They disagree with that assessment of him. Okay? Cool. The way our city works is that I must take, because they're going to give you a jar wa ta'dil principle. Right? The jar wa, this is the fiqh. You got to understand the mindset. The jar wa ta'dil, this is called praise and disparagement. This is a science of hadith. They took this science of hadith and made it applicable to individuals that's walking around the street. That doesn't apply. If that applied, then there would be no benefit of a court system in Islam. Did that make sense? I need you guys to follow me here. If the principles of jarh wa ta'dil was applicable on every Zayd wal Amr, then there would be no need for an Islamic court system. What does that mean? I say he's a liar, he's a thief. He says, no, I'm not a thief, right? I come up, I got people that say he's a thief and have no evidence, no nothing. If jarh wa ta'dil was applicable for the day-to-day involvement of a person, then why did the Prophet ﷺ say, al-bayyina ala mudda'i wa yamin ala man ankar? Or kama qala alayhi salatu wassalam. The Prophet ﷺ, he said the clarification is upon the claimant. If I'm making a claim about you, I have to bring something to support it. This is the rules of Islamic jurists. If I give a verdict on anybody, I have to. It's a requirement Islamically to bring forth evidence. Okay? If someone says, Shadeed Muhammad Dal Mudil, doesn't matter what sheikh said it. Imam Ahmed could have said it. He needs evidence to support it. Anyone needs evidence. This is the right of a Muslim. You need to bring evidence to substantiate that. This is no bias towards anyone. Right? Cool. Sheikh Wasil al-Abbas. Let me tell you how the flip side is. Sheikh Wasil al-Abbas about 10 years ago, and I'm only saying this to the people that understand what I'm saying. The people that don't, just let it go over your head. 10 years ago, Sheikh Wasil al-Abbas said something about the brothers at Salafi Publications. He said one of them was misguided, no one should take from him. When Sheikh Wasil al-Abbas said that, oh, the Sheikh's making a mistake. It was okay to go against him, but it's not okay to go against anybody that you're with. Like, make that make sense to everybody. It don't make sense. If you look about it, they have, some people, they have dhawabit ghayru mundabit. This means they have principles in place that don't align. They don't align. Anyone, and you don't got to be a student of knowledge to see that. Everyone probably saw it but was too scared to talk about it. Well, how come this goes on? You probably said it amongst yourselves but never verbalized it. It was like something inward like that don't really make sense, but I'm not going to say nothing because I don't know what I'm talking about. No, the same way you recognize it, we recognize it. Scholars recognize it. Scholars talk about it. How they do that over there. And the same thing you see, everybody sees. Right? So I say all that to say, I don't even lost my train of thought. The point is, we got to be clear about these issues. And I think, and Allah knows best, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows our community to get back on knowledge, we're not going to have these issues. We're not going to use jarh wa ta'dil to talk about a person. You notice no one does that anymore, right? Huh? No one talks about that science anymore. Y'all notice that, right? Why? Because the ulama talk about that. You can't use that. You can't use that on people. Sheikh Fawzan said that knowledge is in books. What does that mean? That means that was the knowledge that was used so that we can authenticate hadith. Praise and disparagement of narrators of hadith. We're talking about people that's walking the street every day. Based on that, if we use that science, and if I see you eating a water ice, I can't take from you now. I'm just being honest. So you got to understand these sciences. So that was that. Next question.
Okay. What do you know if there's a age where it's like a cutoff for applicants for students?
I think the cutoff age is 23, and the law knows best. But when we applied, the cutoff age was still at 23, but we got in older than 23. So I don't know if they still allow for that now, and I'm not sure.
One more question. It's not regarding you, but a sister wants to go to Egypt to study Quran by herself. What is your advice or opinion with regards to that?
By herself meaning without a mahram? Without, like, what does that mean by herself? Like, just get on a plane and go? No family, no kid?
Okay, if she had a mahram, give that one, and if she didn't, give that one.
If she has a mahram, go with her mahram. If she doesn't have a mahram, don't go with her mahram. You can memorize Quran here.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, Egypt, honestly, I've been there. Egypt is not the best place for a person to get Islamic manners and etiquettes. The people there are very rude. Am I right, Sheikh? So a person might think you're going to Egypt and you're going to level up in terms of your Islamic manners and all of that. That may not be the case, and Allah knows best.
So you obviously went to the university years ago, but do you know if the process is still similar, and also does, getting recommendations was a big thing back then. Does that still hold any weight? Is that still part of the program?
Sheikh, that's a good question. I don't know. What I do know is that the application, so I think it was last year, the end of last year, I saw Sheikh Hassan Bukhari, and I actually spoke to him about the admission process. He says everything's online. Everything is online. So if you can somehow manage to go through that process online, and then whatever they request, then if you need a recommendation, we get yours. That's easy. It's just over on that side, their acceptance side, the process. I'm not sure of the process now.
So earlier you mentioned about like being a serious student. What does that look like to you as far as like characteristics?
A serious student, to me, it looks like all the time you have, something is going towards studying. Seriously. I mean, like, a serious student is that we will write out a schedule for our day. You will schedule time in for your family. That was a serious student. Am I right? We will schedule time for your wife and your kids. That's all right. That's between this time and that time. This time is this time. This time I'm reading this. And we will schedule the day based on science too. Like, I'm going to study fiqh from this time, hadith from this time, aqeedah from this time. And these are the books I'm going to cover. This how many pages I plan on covering. And that's really how it was every day. Yeah, balance. Yeah. You had to be organized. And I learned that schedule from Sheikh Tahir. He taught us how to finish Arba'in an-Nawawiyah, the longer version, in 5 days. We was like, man, how I'm going to do that? It's like, no, you got to do 10 hadith a day. How I'm going to do that? And you got to do this amount of time after this time, this amount after that time. Boom, boom, before you know it, you knocked out in 5 days, right? And it's a way to do stuff. Like if you look at it, I'll give you an example. A person might say, how do you finish the Quran in 3 days? How can a person finish the Quran reading it in 3 days? That sounds impossible, right? Well, guess what? This is how everything gets broken down. After Fajr, you read 2 juz. How many? 2. After Dhuhr, you read how many juz? 2. After Asr, 2. After Maghrib, 2. After Isha, 2. How many did you knock out that day? 10. The same thing the day after that, the same thing the day after that, you would have finished the Quran in 3 days. But if you look at it, it looks, oh, this is impossible, I'm going to do that. But if you think about, all right, if a person wanted to, if you got time, let's say you got a 3-day weekend, it might take, if a person can read Arabic, it might take you 35 minutes to read a juz. 2 juz, it might take you to read an hour and a half. You scroll through your phone more than an hour a day. So you might, let's say you read slow. It take you 2 hours to read 2 juz. Right? So 2 hours after, if you got the time, 2 hours after Fajr, 2 hours after Dhuhr, 2 hours after Asr, 2 hours after Maghrib, 2 hours after Isha. Let's say you got a 3-day weekend. You can knock it out. So what I'm saying is, if you look at the big thing, it's impossible. I can't do that. But if you break it down, and that's something that we had to learn how to do. We learned how to break things down. It looked big, but we make it small. It's all psychological. These are the things that you learn when you're studying Deen.
So I got a message. What's your advice to someone who wants to be a student in the university today with social media and all other distractions we have now?
My advice would be separate yourself from social media as much as you can, if you're able to. If you can separate yourself, to be honest, if you're busy with knowledge, you're not going to have time for social media. I remember when we were in school, when Twitter first came out, and I was like, why would somebody get on Twitter? You know, we used to be like, well, that means you follow what you're doing. Like, how are you that important for somebody to want to follow what you're doing? All right. And if you think about it, if you busy yourself with other things, you won't have time for social media. Let's be honest. If you like disconnect and focus on seeking knowledge, and to be honest, you got to remind yourself of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. He said, "Man salaka tariqan yaltamisu fihi ilman sahalallahu bihi tariqan ila al-jannah." The Prophet ﷺ, he said, whoever treads the path of seeking knowledge, then Allah will make his pathway to paradise easy. So, like, what else are you going to do? What else are you going to make money, and then what? What's your goal? Like, a person asks himself, what's your life goals? What you trying to do with yourself? I'm trying to do that. All right, then what? You want to make money, then what? What's after that? You got a family, then what? What's after that? Everybody know we're going to die. So if you understand you're going to die, why not put forth the effort to learn something from your deen and be serious about it? At least that'll work for you in the day of judgment as opposed to against you, especially if your intentions are right. Like, any other questions? About what? A thesis. I didn't hear no question. That's the question. What's the question? Whose question is that? That ain't his question. That's your question. Why are you gonna send it down? Go ahead, Sheikh.
So we wanted to know, what is a thesis and how is it done?
Like a bahth was a research.
Yes.
A thesis? Oh, a master's thesis or a PhD. Yeah. So I remember. So the first master's thesis I went to was Sheikh Tahir's. SubhanAllah. Abu Sajid was with me. We went to Medina, and he was getting his master's. He wrote a book, and he wrote about Aqidah. I think it was Ishaq ibn Rahuya. He was the companion of Imam Ahmed. And he wrote a book. He wrote about the Aqidah of Ishaq ibn Rahuya. And he wrote 2 of them. Two big, thick books. And so we're sitting there, and we're like, dag. So before the thesis was being, because they got to argue it. So they're going to open up his book, turn to this page. Why did you say this? What did you mean when you said that? Turn to this page. You said this, this, and this. That don't go here. So he had to explain what he put in his book, why he put in his book, what it meant, etc. I'm about to tell you. The person that was arguing is a panel of mashayikh, a panel of ulama. They're ripping his book to pieces. Then there's one head sheikh that looks over a person's thesis. When he wrote it, the head scholar was Sheikh Abdul Razak al-Badr, Hafidhullah Ta'ala. When he saw Sheikh Tahir's risala, or his research, he started crying. He said, I witnessed him come in here, and now today he's from among us. He said, I saw him coming here as an American, not knowing nothing, to now he's with us, meaning like with the ulama on our level. And so they started arguing, ripping his work to pieces. And alhamdulillah, I think he got like a excellent grade on it. And I even think it's published, I'm not sure. But it was a book he wrote in all Arabic about the Aqidah of Ishaq ibn Rahuya. He was one of the companions of Imam Ahmed. I don't know, and wait a minute. So we're talking about, and let's put that in perspective, right? We're talking about brothers here with the sheikh next to their name. Where they researched in Arabic that we can see, like, I mean, that's what I'm trying to tell you. It's not the same, and it's disrespectful to the people that earned that title, as opposed to people who's just given it and added it themselves. It's not the same, right?
This may be slightly redundant, but at the time when y'all went to the university, Qara, women were allowed to go if the husbands went, correct?
Say again?
Women were allowed to go to the university if their husbands were in there, correct?
Yes.
And so do you know today if it's still a similar?
I'm assuming it is, only because Qura has something called Jamiat Banat. They have a women's college for women to go study Islam at Qura University. That's how it was then, and the university is still there now. However, I don't know, like, it's not the same volume of people studying as it was when we went. It's not the same. And this is part of the reason why we're doing this now. We need more people to study Deen. Listen, if 30 people wanted to go study Deen and be serious about it, the stuff that we're talking about, we're not going to have problems, because it's not going to just be us saying this. There's going to be other people like, Dad, that what they saying makes sense. I know this. There's going to be more people saying the same stuff, right? It's going to be less people saying we got to follow what this one sheikh said over everybody else. That's not Islam. That's not what we learned. That's not the way of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam.
Nah, this was kind of, I was thinking about with Tahir, knowing all his credentials and all that, and how the scholar praised him. But how do y'all feel about the people that he kind of associate now back here?
Mumtaz, that's a good question. So the brother said, how do you feel about the people he associates with? That's his business. At the end of the day, whether I agree or disagree with it, to me, he's from the level of the Mashayikh. The people he work with, you may find, and this is for those that don't know, if you go to the land of the Muslims, you find people from the ulama working with people that may not believe what they believe. Would I do it? No. Me personally, I may not do the things that he does, but it doesn't take away from his Islamic knowledge. It doesn't take away from the fact that he's qualified to do certain things that maybe you don't understand and can't do. Right? And then it's like, if the people that he works with, I don't know the level, I don't know to what extent. I don't even know the people that I don't know their situation. People might have said some things that are incorrect. Even if a person says something that's incorrect, what's the ruling on that person? That's a whole process. And to be honest with you, anybody that's talking here, you're all lay people. Let's just get that straight. Anybody that's commenting on what Sheikh Tahir is doing, you're a lay person. What does that mean? You haven't studied Deen. You're not at the level to speak about him Islamically on no level, because you're not there. You're not qualified. I hate to say that. Brothers and sisters, you're not qualified. It takes, for me to look at Sheikh Tahir and be like, man, you out of pocket religiously, based on what? What ayah, what hadith, what qaida, what principle from the deen did he go against? Sheikh such and such. That ain't a proof. That's not a proof in the deen. If you can't come with that, you got to sit down and take a back seat. That's not your lane. Now, for you to say I'm not comfortable, that's one thing. It's okay to be not comfortable. It's okay for me to say I'm not really feeling. That's cool. But for me to say I don't mess with him because this, and this, who are you? What you're saying may not even be correct Islamically, so now you may be oppressing the brother. And it was something a brother told me the other day. He said that Abu Usama, and Allah preserve him, was asked, a brother came to him and apologized for speaking ill of him when he was locked up. And he said, Abu Usama told him that anybody that says something about me, I'm not forgiving them. I'm taking that with me on the day of judgment. I'm getting my rights back on the day of judgment. He said the brother started crying. He said the brother cried. And when the brother cried, he said, man, it touched his heart to the point that he said, you know what? This is the one brother that I'm going to forgive that spoke about me. Just think about this. How many brothers and sisters got the students' names in their mouth saying they all fit, this match it all? You don't even, I hate to say it, half of us don't even know how to pray properly. Yet you speaking about a man that put 21 years in the deen and you just got out of prison. You just got out of jail. You speaking about a man that put 20. You went to jail for doing something that was wrong. This man studied deen for doing something right and you speaking about him? Make that make sense. And what planet does that even make sense in? You got booked. You was locked up for whatever crime you committed. You come home now and got more knowledge than a man that put 21 years in, sacrificed his whole life studying. And you sacrifice your life doing something haram. And he sacrificed his life doing something halal. And you going to speak about that, man? What planet does that work in except for in our town? How do you, coming home from prison, have the audacity to speak about a man that dedicated his life to Allah? Who do you think you are? That's the problem. This is called jur'ah. This is called jur'ah. People, they put themselves in positions that they didn't earn. How do you think that you can speak about a man that put that much work in? If anything, you might say, personally, I'm not really feeling him and that's that. I'm not going to speak bad about because I respect what he did. What you did, nobody respects what you did. Except for people in the streets. Islam don't respect what you did. But Islam respects what he did. The Salaf respects what he did. The ulama respect what he did. Is he perfect? Heck no. The students perfect? No. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to make mistakes like everybody else. But you can't come off talking crazy about a man that dedicated his life to Allah and you didn't. Y'all the same age. You spent 20 years booked. He spent 20 years studying deen. Y'all not the same. It's not the same. Does that mean, what's in our hearts? Allah knows best. That person been 20 years in prison might be better than him with Allah. But in this dunya, from what you can't, you're not the same. Did that make sense? With all due respect, if you're not the same, you have to have some shyness talking about a person that dedicated his life to studying Allah's religion. You have to. هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون? Are the one that know like the one that doesn't know? لا يستوون. They don't compare. So, and what happens is, like I told a brother, he came back, he was talking about me and some other brothers. Brother just came home from prison, right? New Shah. I said, well, damn, I might have been better off not going to study Islam then, for real. You think about a brother goes overseas and studies deen. He comes back, he was on it when he was with you before he left. Now he goes study deen with ulama, come back, he off it now? Well, daggone it, we're not going to recommend nobody go study. And that's what's happening now. Nobody's going to study, but everybody got sheikhs next to their name. Studying ilm is not decent no more. Nobody goes to study. We can just Google it. We can Google it real quick, and that's our new sheikhs. No, that don't work. And we see the results of it now. It don't add up.
Question. Being though the hadith of the Prophet says when the scholar makes a mistake, he gets a reward, and if he gets it right, he gets 2 rewards. Right? So even if Sheikh Tahir did make a mistake, being though he's considered from the ulama, amongst the ulama, he still gets a reward for doing it. Inshallah, right?
Inshallah. But what about the one that don't have no knowledge and they opening up their mouth about verdicts? Do you guys understand how detailed it is to give a verdict on somebody? There's a chapter in the books of fiqh. It's called Bab al-Qada. It's called the chapter of judges. In order for any Muslim to give a verdict on another Muslim, there are rules and regulations that you must fulfill to do that. None of us, meaning none of the people here, studied that. The people that's speaking about the students and this one's off and this one, he's more on the sunnah, he's more this. Listen, brothers screamed at Shadeed Muhammad. I don't care how you feel about that man. That man is a student of knowledge. He has ilm. Yes, you might not agree. I may not agree with the stuff he does. But you can't take that. That man put work in. That's a man, him and Farouk Post are two people I know that were locked up in prison. And when they got out of prison, they went to study Islam. His years of studying was more than his years of being locked up. Both of their years of studying was more than years of being locked up. You got to respect that man. You might not like that man, but you got to respect that man. He was booked, came home, went to go study deen. I don't care how you feel about him, but you got to respect it, though. Any real man going to respect that. That's decent. Everything he says is correct. It may not be. Give him some leeway. Ask questions in a respectful way. Brothers tried to destroy this man's life. See, this is what y'all don't know. They tried to destroy this man's life 10 years ago. People giving lectures, women, be careful. I know he's handsome and got curly hair. Who going to give a lecture like that? What type man going to do? That's corny. Y'all laughing, but it was done. Brothers was insecure. Oh, don't listen to Shadeed. He licking his lips. What, cuz? What man talking about another man licking his lips? Like, that's weak. That's weak. It's jealousy. No doubt. So I'm saying these are the things that this man had to deal with. But he was all good when he came up to Germantown. He used to give classes up Germantown all the time 10, 15 years ago. Brothers had problems with him. Then he got thrown. Oh, he's off of it. Somebody sent me something and said, oh, Imam Musafim said had Shadeed giving a lecture. They off it. But the brother who probably said it, I'll have some doubts about whether they even know how to pray properly. They might not even know the tashahhud and the salat. But you commenting on a talib ilm that put work in. You don't have to like him, but you gotta respect it. If you disagree with him, it's okay to disagree. Brother, you said this, man. Like, for example, the situation about the shahada, testing the people that take shahadas, right? Oh, he's off of it. What is he doing, right? But we don't know in Surah Al-Mumtahana, in Surah Al-Mumtahana, in this surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, test them, test those women. Test those women. Make sure their shahada is what it's supposed to be. So this is a precedence that was already set. And most of us, 20 years ago, I remember when I took my shahada, brother sat me down, you know, Islam means this, it means this, it means this. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that. Are we still doing that? So I'm just saying, there's a wedge. Even if you disagree with what he said, there's a wedge shar'an. What does that mean? There's an Islamic angle for what he said. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it, he has a wedge shar'an. This is Islamic speech here. That means he has an Islamic angle for saying what he said. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it. He came with something from the Quran. Refute that. He came with a hadith of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. Refute that. Don't refute the man. Refute what he did. Refute what he said with evidence. Kitab, sunnah. If you can't do it, sit down. It's not your lane. If you can do it, stand up and say your piece. If you're not qualified, sit down. That's not your battle. If you're qualified, stand up and reach out to him. Say, listen, you know, I know you use this ayah, but there's another ayah that says this, and this is what that's cool. Any student of knowledge loves that. That's what we love. That's decent. Because maybe he might look at it like that. Maybe I am wrong. He came with this ayah, this hadith, and this understanding. I didn't look. Maybe. And a real student of knowledge is open for that. What you're not open for is just talking. My bad. I ain't going like that. Any other questions? I guess that's it. Sisters, any other questions? Right, we're going to close out with that, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته